So now that we know how to add completely new data into our database on our own, we can begin to look at how to update the data that's already in there. In our previous video, we were looking at the staff table, and we had added this final row, this king, into our database. But as you can see, the number of both the staff number and the manager number begin with 7, whereas all of the other numbers begin with 6. And so we can use the update command to update this database to change this across to 6. So the formula for the update command is just update and then the name of the table, which is staff, and then we're going to set the column number that we're looking for, so the staff number, and what we're going to set it to, so 6945 instead of 7945, and we're also going to change the manager's number as well, so manager number 6698 instead of 7698. And we use the where command as well, like we did when we were selecting data. Now it's very important when we're selecting data with the where command that the results are exactly the ones that we want out of the database. You could use the select command, for example, to test that the commands that you're writing is correct first, but we're going to just jump straight ahead. So we're going to look for someone whose staff surname is equal to king and whose job title is cleaner. If we didn't have this second part of the command, the job title is cleaner, we would also get the head chef whose name is king, and we don't want to change his staff number as well. And so it's important that you're very specific with the where command in this scenario when you're using this update command. And if we run this and then select everything again, we will actually get an error because the default MySQL installation won't let us use the where commands that we've used. We've got to use a unique primary key, and so in this case we're just going to change the staff number. So if we run this now, it will change the details for us. So that's just something to be aware of. If you're going to be using the where command on a default installation of MySQL, you've got to use a primary key when you're identifying the actual records that you want to update. And that is obviously a setting that you can turn off. So if you wanted to use the where command as we initially tried to, that's fine, but you've just got to change the setting first. And as I mentioned earlier, you're able to use the where command exactly as you would when you're selecting data. The only thing is you've got to turn that setting off, the safe mode, when you're configuring your database. So if we go across to our customer table as well, there is a couple of mistakes in this that we can correct. For example, we've spelt Birmingham wrong here, so we can change that using our newfound knowledge. Customer and in this case we're actually going to allow MySQL to return multiple records to us. So because we're using customer number here, we're going to get all of these 3 instances, but it will be correct that all 3 of them have the Birmingham spelled correctly. So if we try to run this now, we're obviously going to get this error again. But if we add a command before this to turn safe mode off, updates, we will be able to run the command properly now. So you should only need to run this command once to turn safe mode off. And once it is off, you're able to return multiple results, which will allow you in turn to update multiple records at once. Now you can also see that we've got the country has changed between England and the United Kingdom here. So we can change the country at the same time to England. And this will just allow us to keep our data as consistent as possible. This is technically something that should be done beforehand, before the data is being inserted into the database. So within your PHP script or within your Ruby script or whatever else. And now that we've also turned safe mode off, we should be able to select records based on other things other than unique records. So we could create a more specific query by adding more to the actual conditions. It should be and, not a comma. Now we've changed this because we've added more specific terminology to the where clause. So all we're going to do now is just turn that back. And as I mentioned, it's easy enough to just add more data to the where clause, so that you're able to identify the exact subset of the data that you're going to want to change. And one final point before we finish this session is the fact that you can of course put all of this on one line. You can spread it out over multiple lines. It doesn't really make any difference. The only impact is on readability. And if you're able to read and understand what's going on, that's the only thing that matters.